Sonic X Episode 20. We start out hearing Robot tell Eggman the main engine of the egg carrier was repaired, and it took so long because the robot sidekicks had been complaining. This is why you shouldn't have programmed them to be like that. Logically, I mean. Meta-wise is entertaining. However, the turbines are malfunctioning again, and Eggman looks forward to using its next invention. Then we see that somehow Sonic agreed to go on a cruise when he hates the water. And he doesn't immediately explain that he's here to protect his friends. It honestly feels forced that he's so afraid of drowning that he doesn't even trust a yacht he's on not to sink. This really feels like a pointless episode. Don't they want to go home? Why aren't they looking for the emeralds? Tails even lampshades what they're to do on the ship. This is supposed to be an action series, but there's barely any room for action in this kind of plot. I bet he'll just fight one thing at the end, and the rest of the episode will just be padding. I hope every episode of the show isn't like this, because formulaicness is not good. Amy gets tired of Sonic hyperactively running all over the place, showing that even she can get tired of her crush. And Amy lampshades that he's being immature. Amy calling someone else immature. She also calls him a big crybaby. That's out of character. What kind of infatuated fangirl would insult the object of their affection like that? Sonic can't even walk without collapsing. I mean, it's good to see Sonic vulnerable for once, but this is ridiculous. Do real hydrophobics really fear being on boats? It's not like he's literally in the water. There's no chance of him drowning. I at least like that Amy feels bad about it and thinks she was too hard on him. But no one's explaining why they don't just get Sonic out of here. Like, no one's explaining we need Sonic around to protect us just in case, so you have to stay with us. It just looks like Tails is being a horrible friend by not getting him off the boat immediately. Amy complains that Sonic wasn't really sick, as Sonic prepares to enter a plane that's landing on the cruise boat. But then it turns out that a ton of old people are leaving the plane, because fuck the simple solution of just letting Sonic leave the boat from the start. Logically, this should have happened so we could have a plot with mostly action and plot progression for Sonic. He could escape the boat and go somewhere else to fight a robot. But instead, for no reason, Tanaka orders Sonic to stay on the cruise. Is Tanaka technically Sonic's friend? Because he's not acting like that here. You'd think Sonic would hold a grudge against him for this. He says warriors need to relax, but he should know that Sonic's hardly relaxed and hates water. If he wanted him to relax, he would let him leave. This is completely ridiculous. If this is supposed to be comedy, then this is not funny. Bad writing is not funny. There's no way Sonic would have to put up with this. He's the hero of the world. No one would put him through that. Even Sonic Underground never had a story that was mostly without tension and action. That was literally nothing but, oh, the Sonic characters are going on a cruise. It's not like normal human characters couldn't have a plot like this. Chris says that an old lady asked Cream the same question over and over. I'm surprised that we just saw narration about this instead of actually hearing the old lady ask the same question over and over. That would have been funnier. And Sonic kept jumping off the boat into the ocean. Isn't that the exact opposite of what a hydrophobic would do? He can't swim very well. Finally, I'm kind of entertained again when I see Eggman again, even if I quickly got bored again because of the generic villain scene. Will Eggman get to the point already? Eggman yells at the robot sidekick for trying to give machines names, and the robots complain about his names jealously. Why would Eggman put up with that from his robot sidekicks? They're being blatantly rude to him. He would have reprogrammed that away immediately, but instead there's a giant padding scene that's just annoying. He wouldn't humor them like this. I don't think Scratch and Grounder were outright mean to Eggman like this. To carry out an escape plan, Sonic tries to get Tails worried about his plane, but he's smirking, so it's obvious he's trying to be manipulating. But somehow Tails is manipulated into feeling guilty after Sonic tells him his plane feels lonely, and Tails, rather than being sarcastic, actually does feel awful. He's not that stupid. I admire what they're going with here, that that Tails is genuinely attached to his inventions because he's a sweet, naive kid. That's the kind of engineer side of him that should be focused on, but he wouldn't buy that a machine with no brain can feel lonely. He's not a 2-year-old. And this doesn't even work, so it doesn't matter. Sonic tells Amy that he finds it attractive when she swings her hammer, and makes Chris think Amy's gone berserk. But somehow, Chuck is suspicious, so it doesn't work. Why did Sonic think that this would work anyways? This is a terrible plan. Amy then walks in bragging that Sonic flirted with her. I love seeing Sonic be sly and manipulating, like he's evil. It's pretty fascinating. Him flirting with Amy reminded me of Scourge. Then Bokoon shows up at Chris's house wondering where everyone went. He doesn't even have any bombs. Was he just lonely? He actually gets me to feel sorry for him as he starts crying. And for a long time, not just for a gag. Ella pretends to be happy to see him at first, only to tell him off for trying to cause trouble. Bokoon then naturally starts crying and hugging her. And that was a genuine tearjerker moment, actually. I feel really bad for him. Ella's actually comforting him, which is pretty good of her. She puts her hand on his head and even says that she'll make him lunch. It's good to see this motherly side of her. Sadly, as I expected since this was too good to be true, and in fact I was amazed at how good it was, the scene's totally ruined, as after he says he's sorry he was bad, he leaves with an explosion for no reason. Who thought that was funny? So much for that. That's a total misunderstanding of good writing. You're supposed to have a scene with genuine heart, not be undermined and undercut by a bad joke. I don't care if he's the bad guy. This was refreshing. Besides, his explosions are always harmless and just create soot, so what's the point? Amy hits the pole Sonic's on for no reason, being a bitch. Well, so much for her having a crush on him. And Sonic taunts Eggman and the robots when they show up to threaten the boat. The ship gets stopped to look at a glacier, and Eggman's machines all combine. No, that wasn't impressive because they all just jump cut to being combined together. I feel like the animation in the show is just lazy. Like there's too much lingering on still images, and it's something I really notice when I'm editing the footage together. I never noticed that the animation was bad in Sonic Underground or anything. Sonic's then taunted because he wasn't able to run ahead since he was running on ice. Is that realistic? Wouldn't he just slip right away? And the machine constantly shoots lasers at the glacier. Wait, why doesn't that just melt the glacier? Then an old lady tells Sonic over a microphone to relax. It's cool that she's getting to be the Chekhov's gun. Why are the ship captains not stopping her? Well, she is helping him, since he relaxes and stands on the ice properly. But this feels really arbitrary, since he was just struggling on ice earlier. Then Bokoon flies up to Eggman's window and starts crying, begging them to let him in. Then it turns out Ella was flying the X-Tornado. Well, that is badass, but Tails lampshading it doesn't make it make sense. She doesn't have a piloting license. I heard that it takes years to learn how to pilot a plane, because they have so many buttons. But it sure was nice of Chuck to teach her how to pilot a plane off screen. Good thing she had the time to learn that when she was being a maid. She crashes the plane into Eggman's airship to make it get sent away and somehow doesn't kill herself in the process. Instead, we see the plane on the cruise, and out of nowhere, Sonic's relaxing on the cruise now, when he was nuts enough to freak out about it before. They don't even explain that he almost drowned one time to justify him being so comically afraid. Well, that was a painfully pointless episode. Just like I thought, it was about the heroes relaxing on a boring cruise with no action in sight until the very end. That was really annoying. At least the ending was cool because Sonic didn't cheat and win in one hit by using a ring. Instead, Eggman's plane kept shooting at him with lasers when he was having trouble on a glacier, and an old lady came in as a Chekhov's gun got him to relax. And while it made no sense that Ella could pilot Tails' plane just fine, at least it was badass of her. But I found it really hard to believe that Sonic would spend a whole episode having a panic attack about being on a boat to the point of jumping into the ocean which is scared of in the first place multiple times. I feel like every Sonic X episode has this formula where there's only an action scene with the robot at the very end. And I would hate to think that this is the kind of show where you should just skip to the end of the episode every single time and ignore everything leading up to it. Sonic Underground didn't have pacing like this. The other shows had interesting stuff happening throughout the episode in comparison. There's a genuine emotional scene where Bokoon starts crying because he's lonely and Ella comforts him. I was surprised the show ever did that for a bad guy. But sadly it ends with Bokoon giving her one of his weak bombs because he has an obsessive compulsion about doing that and flying away. Which was really stupid. Why did he do that? Didn't he like being hugged by her? Didn't he want to get a lunch? Why would you undercut a sad scene like this? This was working perfectly as a scene where a villain had a surprising amount of depth and was being shown a sympathetic light for once. He was lonely, and one of the good guys actually comforted him when he was crying. They should have just left it at that perfectly fine, especially since Bokoon manages to find his way back to the bad guys anyways, so we could have just as easily had her take him there in the plane on purpose, even if she should have at least tried to talk him out of going back to Eggman. Seriously, why does he stay with Eggman? He has free will, so it's not like he's programmed to stay with him, is he? I think he only stays with him because he's used to living with him, and the heroes don't want him around, of course, because he has this weird obsessive compulsion to prank people with weak bombs that cover them in soot all the time. I don't remember him being like that in the Sonic X comics, so maybe Eggman finally got a clue and programmed that out of him, just to replace it with sugar obsession. Too bad he might have anti-tampering software in him where he'd go berserk on Tails if he modified him. I mean, that was the case for Deco and Boko. Maybe it works by detecting that someone didn't input the password first before modifying.